Hey everyone, welcome back to another video of how to draw. This week we're going to be focusing on how to draw eyes. So the last couple of lessons we've focused on doing faces, how to draw just a basic face and how to draw face shapes. So today we're going to start going a little bit more in depth on how to draw the actual features that go onto the face so we can finish our character designs. Next week we're also going to be working on how to draw noses, and then beyond that we're going to be learning how to draw mouths and ears, etc. So each week we're just going to cover a little bit of a topic, and eventually we'll just build it up from there. I'd like to apologise for last week for not doing a video. The week got a bit ahead of me. I was doing a bit of extra client work and just got a bit swamped. So I do apologise sincerely for that. So I'm going to make up for it, and going to be doing an extra video this week on something else. So and hopefully do some more. But I won't make any promises that I don't know I can keep. But for now, we'll stick it with the how-tos, and I'm just going to cut here and let's go to the actual tutorial. Okay, so let's talk eyes. To start off with, I really want to teach you guys how sort of the basics of the real eye, of a real eye, and how it works. And then we're going to take that and then we're going to simplify it. So the idea behind cartooning is we're going to take something realistic and we want to simplify that product to make it still look like the original, but have a cartoony, edgy feel to it. So let's say we took a portrait of one of your favorite actors. We're just taking the basic elements of them and really simplifying them so they still look like the actor, but in a cartoon form. So you'll see it a lot in the cartoons that you watch and the comics that you read, and that's what we're trying to do. So let's learn first how the eye works, or what it looks, and we're going to take a few of the main elements. So this is going to be a terrible circle. So let's say this is your eye here. I'm going to tidy it up because that's going to annoy me. So an eye is spherical, and then there's just two main parts that I really want to focus on. We've got the pupil, which sits in the middle, which is essentially sort of like a hole in the middle of your eye. And then we also have, what is it called? The iris, which is this section here. So usually all the beautiful colors and everything in your eye. These are what we're going to be focusing on today anyway, the three main components of the eye. Now, if you know much about the eye, the pupil does tend to dilate depending on the situation. So if it's low light, your pupil will actually expand to allow more light in. If it's very bright, it will contract to take less light in, so you can focus and see your surroundings. So let's get rid of this big guy, and that was a terrible eye, I'm really sorry, but it's enough to give you an idea. So all eyes start with a circle. Now we're going to focus on three sort of styles of eyes in this little how-to, and those are going to be, just to get you an idea, we're going to do round eyes, we're also going to do sort of squarish eyes. Then we're also going to look at like almond eyes as well. And I'm going to explain to you how we can get to this just by using the circle. And it's quite simple, it's very easy. This tutorial shouldn't take long, and you'll be able to play around and start to come up with a few ideas. We're also going to look at the eyebrow as well, and how this is going to affect different things. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here and just put in a few circles. Do keep in mind that I will be doing a proper fact sheet for you, which you'll be able to download on my website, so you can check that out at chrismcquinlanart.com, where you'll be able to find all the videos as well, before and after, and also any downloadable content, just to give you guys a little bit of extra help with these videos, so you've got something to work with, or if you just want to print something out and just chill out on the couch and do a bit of practice. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. We've got our basic round eye, and as we talked about, we had the pupil and the iris. Now, when I draw cartoons, you'll probably notice in any of my comic books, I actually only just draw the pupil, and that's a very stylistic choice for me. So we're going to stick with that today. But I just wanted you to understand that when you are drawing an eye, those are sort of your three main components to put an eye together. The general eye that I will draw is just the pupil. It'll be quite large. And then what I tend to do is I sort of just add in a couple of little shines. So these are just representations of reflection of light on the eye, like that. But we don't need to go that in depth with this. So there's your basic round eye. That's what an eye looks like. Now, looking at what we were talking about, so we had the round eye, the square eye, and the almond eye. Getting to those and how we can create variations of those to create different eyes and different expressions. What we want to do is start looking at these lines here as our eyelids. So the eye will always be round no matter what. So it'll sit within inside your skull, and then your eyelids will start to form in different ways to create your expressions. So if we were just to do this square eye, which is sort of very representational of someone who's a bit disgruntled or upset, all we need to do is draw these lines here to imagine our eyelids. Now, because we're doing cartoons, we don't need to go overly detailed. Like I said before, we're simplifying. So what we would do is draw our little lines here where our eyelids are. Let's place our pupil here. So this character is looking off to the right hand side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase all these excess lines outside of where the pupil is sitting. So now we've just created our little square eye. So it stands to reason when we do our almond eye, we're going to be doing the same thing. Now with an almond eye, almond-shaped eyes are generally very standard for female characters. Nice and sort of sleek, and I would always generally try and keep them on a bit of a slant. So what you could do, just to begin with, is just do your standard almond shape with your eyelids like that. There's your pupil in the middle, and then I'm going to just throw away these. Or as I mentioned before, we can just put it on that little slant. And you can see already just by changing the positioning of where those eyelids sit, we've created two very different styled eyes. So to go beyond that, if we were to make it a female, we could then add in some eyelashes. And we can go further into that a little bit later. But there we go, we've got 4 different eyes that all came from the same base, the round eye with the pupil. So let's go a little bit further here. So we're going to do a few more circles. And I'm going to play around with just a few different shapes. And we're going to start incorporating the eyebrow as well to really emphasize a few points. Alright. So we've got 8 eyes. Whether we use them all, doesn't matter. Okay, so again, we're looking at using the eyelid to create expressions. And what we can do is we can use the eyebrow as a way to conform the muscle to create that shape. Now what I mean by that is, what I want to do here is someone who's a little bit angry. So I'm going to draw a couple of lines there. Now if you look, this is very similar to the square eye that we did before, but we've just changed the angle of our lines. So now we've got someone who, if you can see it like already I can, you've got someone who just looks a little bit angry. Now we can take that a little bit further, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in an eyebrow here. Finish off the eye. At this point we can start playing around and doing a little bit more detail. I know I said we can simplify this, but then what we could do, just to create a little bit more interest, is a little bit of a curve there. So representative of where the eye actually sits. on the face, but we're emphasizing the fact that if you look at someone who's sort of angry, their eyes tend to bulge out a little bit and the skin contours around. So we're just sort of representing that there with that little line. And then we've got the eyebrow here. We can even add in some lines. I'm actually going to remove this one here for now, just while I'm explaining this. So we can add in a few little lines here. We could even add in some additional muscle lines on the eyebrow. So now we're starting to create a really nice form around the eye. We can even add in a little bit of extra texture around the eyebrow just to give it a bit more feeling like an eyebrow. And we can start elaborating on it. Now, as I mentioned in some of the previous videos, the idea behind this is we want to start with the basics. We want to get a real good building block, and then from there we want to start adding detail in. So we can do that again. Let's use both of these eyes as an example on the face. So I'm going to draw someone who looks worried. So just there already, we have someone who looks a worried face. One thing I'm going to change around, and I think is a really great way to really emphasize expression, is pupil size. So someone who's really worried might have very small pupils. And I'm going to change this in a minute just so we can actually see how pupil size is going to affect things. So we've got the small pupils, we've got the angled eyelids. Now what I'm going to do is actually even add in a curved eyelid here, just to show that playing around with different shapes can give you some very fun and interesting results. So it doesn't always have to be a straight line. We can really play around with it. Now if we were to continue on with his face, these lines would start to describe the cheeks of the face. So the cheeks pushing up, so if you can see, pushing up and sort of affecting the shape of the eye. So let's continue to erase the rest of the eye like we were talking about. So now we've got someone who's worried. We could even add in some eyebrows. We could even start to play around with the curve of the eye at the top there. Add in a few of those extra lines. Yeah, these are quite messy, but we're just playing around. We could start adding in a few motion lines around the eyes. What we could even do is start playing around with the heaviness in the line weights. For someone who's really, really scared, we could just do some really nice thick lines around the eye there, like that. Okay, so now we've got someone who's quite scared. Colouring in those eyebrows there. So, like I said before, let's play around with the pupil size. Notice how we get a very different effect already just by playing around with the pupil size. Here, I get the feeling someone's more likely about to start crying with the large pupils in more of a cutesy fashion. We can add in that little shine there, and we've got this really nice cutesy face. We can sort of knock back the thickness of the line there. You know, someone who looks like they're whimpering or just all, you know, puppy eyes. But if we then take it back a little bit, we've just got that simple worried face. They don't look like they're going to cry or anything. They just genuinely look frightened. So playing around with those different elements, we're starting to see different expressions already. So playing around with all of these elements are going to give you some really interesting looks. Let's go back to this one again. So we had quite a large pupil here. Just going to go a small pupil, and let's play around with the thickness of the lines there. See how now we've got someone who just looks even more enraged. And we can start playing around with the eyes. We can really emphasize these lines here. We could even bring that in there. Now we've got someone who's just really enraged, really angry, ready to fight or something. Okay, so that's a good quick rundown of the eyes. We can start looking at the female eye here. let's do one of those almond shaped ones. Very simple, like before, we're just doing those curve arches to create that almond shape. Just going to do a nice standard pupil. Bit of a glare on the eyes there. Then we're going to play around with eyelashes, so we can start doing a nice thick eyelash like that. This is sort of my go-to. I like to use this. It's quite simple. We can add in a few little eyelashes at the bottom there, and then you've got a nice eye. I'm actually going to duplicate this and show you a few variations of eyebrows now. Eyelashes. So let's move this one around. So I'm going to erase this. I can start adding in some really more detailed ones. Like that. And generally on the bottom eyelid they tend to get a little bit smaller as they go inwards. You could even go all the way around if you wanted to. And then we've got a completely different eye again. And then we can start adding in a few little details. I tend to find by drawing in the bottom eyelid with anything, for my illustrations, it tends to add age to a character. So if you're trying to do someone who looks a little bit older, adding that extra line sort of gives the impression of, sort of bags under the eyes. And that's a really good way to help differentiate. So if you're trying to draw an older character, or if you're drawing your character in the future and you just want to show a few extra little things, by adding those extra lines, you'll start to see more age coming through. And that's a really good rule as well, sort of in general in drawing and facial design, is the more lines in a face, the older the character is going to look. If you want a character to look youthful and young, you'll find that there'll be a lot less lines, more fine eyebrows. They won't be as fully formed, especially within females and children. It's generally the case. And also wrinkles. The more wrinkles you add, the more age and definition it adds to the face. So if you're drawing this face up here, just by removing sort of that facial line, we add a little bit of youth already there, but once we start adding in a few extra lines, we're now starting to get someone who's got a bit of age about them. We can add in some extra lines at the top there. It all starts to create more characteristics and more interesting character designs. Alright, so just to wrap things up, that's the basics of the eyes. Hopefully that's enough to allow you guys to create a little bit more character within your designs. When I'm drawing eyes, I like to do a really nice oval shape. This is how I draw. That's sort of the style that I've sat on now. You'll probably find it very reminiscent of sort of old style cartoons in the 90s, very Nickelodeon, and that's just how I've sort of adapted. But if you prefer the more circle eye, you can go with that. Maybe you prefer more of an oval eye. Or if you're into manga, you like to draw eyes like that and sort of that cut off oval shape. There's a lot of ways to draw eyes, and I highly recommend you guys going online, having a look at some other eyes, read your favorite comic books or your favorite manga, look at the eyes in there and see what you enjoy. Sometimes I like to do sort of a oval shape that's sort of a little bit squeezed in at the bottom there. I find that's a really nice eye for most of my characters, and then I can just alter it from there. And once you get an understanding of the style you like, and don't spend too much time freaking out about getting the right style eye, just do what comes naturally and play around with them too. Make sure you try different eyes when you're drawing different characters. You might find that you might not really like a character and you change the style of the eye and bam, it'll suit, it'll look great. Some people even like to do for a character that has glasses, the glasses actually are their eyes, so they constantly have square eyes. But we're talking cartoons here. We can really emphasize and have a lot of fun. So we can still play around with the shape of those glasses to suit the character's mood and emotion. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget that you can go to chrismcquinlanart.com, go to the How to Draw link at the top of the page, and you'll find all of these videos here, along with some downloadable links. So you'll find some PDFs there that you can download, print and use. Feel free to share them around with your friends and other, whoever else likes to draw. And if you guys are using them, I'd love to see photos of them. Tag me on Instagram at chrismcquinlanart. Send them to me by email. I don't care. I want to check them out. And if you guys do, then I can show you guys, show them up on these videos, and maybe even do some draw overs and things like that if you'd be interested as well. I think that could be really fun too, to sort of help you guys learn. Alright, so that's it for today's video. Next week we'll be talking about noses. So that can be a really fun one. Noses can be really interesting and can really exaggerate styles and have a lot of fun with them. So we'll get to that next week. Play with some eyes, add them to your faces, and enjoy. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.